read the first part of the gospel this morning and focus on that. While Jesus spake these things unto John's disciples, behold, there came a certain ruler and worshipped him, saying, My daughter is even now dead, but come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live. And Jesus arose and followed him, and so did his disciples. And behold, a woman which was diseased with an issue of blood 12 years came behind him and touched the hem of his garment. For she said within herself, If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole. This story is found in each of the synoptic gospels. Matthew's version is the shortest because it includes only the essential details. As Father Crowder pointed out when we studied this story in Luke recently, it is probably the only one where the flow of one miraculous event is interrupted by another. That is, as Jesus is going to see the daughter of Jairus, the name of the ruler or elder of the synagogue, he is diverted by an encounter with a woman who touches the hem of his garment. After she is healed of her affliction, Jesus returns to follow Jairus to his house. Now, if I were to give a title to this story, I would call it Leaps of Faith. A leap of faith is the act of believing or doing something, not on the basis of reason. A commentator wrote about Søren Kierkegaard, the Danish philosopher, and he said this: Søren Kierkegaard coined the expression leap of faith as a metaphor for belief in God. He argued that truth cannot be found by observation alone, but must be understood in the mind and heart apart from empirical evidence. Since we cannot observe God with our eyes, we must have faith that he is there. Here, let me explain it in a little bit of a different way, what a leap of faith is, with part of a poem from a very troubled American Catholic writer named Anne Sexton. This is from her book of poems called An Awful Rowing Toward God. It is from the middle of the poem, and she makes there her leap of faith. She starts out, But I grew, and God was there like an island I had not rowed to. Still ignorant of him, my arms and my legs worked, and I grew. I wore rubies and bought tomatoes, and now in my middle age, about 19 in the head, I'd say, I am rowing. Though the oarlocks stick and are rusty, and the sea blinks and rolls like a worried eyeball, but I am rowing. Though the wind pushes me back, and I know that island will not be perfect. It will have the flaws of life, the absurdities of the dinner table, but there will be a door, and I will open it, and I will get rid of the rat inside of me, the gnawing, pestilential rat. God will take it with his two hands and embrace it. As the African says, this is my tale which I have told. If it be sweet, if it be not sweet, take somewhere else and let some return to me. This story ends with me still rowing. In this story of Matthew's, both Jairus and the unnamed woman are so desperate that they take a leap of faith with a controversial, itinerant, traveling preacher and healer. So let us just focus on the start of their leap, that is, their appeal to Jesus for a miracle. First, Jairus and his dying daughter. Now, the girl's life-threatening illness is unknown. All Jairus tells Jesus is that my daughter is now even dead. Now, notice Jesus does not ask about her condition, which is what a physician would do. So, what is wrong with her? What's her problem? Jesus does not practice medicine. It is likely Jairus, due to his standing in the community, had already sought help from physicians. And to Jairus, Jesus is the end of the line. At the local synagogue, he is an example to others on how to uphold Jewish religious laws and rituals. Perhaps he is already a believer, or, like Saul, a persecutor. Whatever his situation, a deep love for his daughter brings him to the feet of Jesus. He was not looking or seeking for medicines or tonics, for he says, "Come and lay thy hand upon her, and she shall live." He wants what historically a Jewish prophet can give, the laying on of hands. Now let's examine Jairus' request. He comes face to face with Jesus, falls to the ground, and worships him. A shocking public act for an elder of a synagogue. Each of the Gospels emphasizes this with the introductory exclamation of "Behold," meaning, reader, pay attention to this. Jairus wants Jesus to stop what he is doing and come immediately to his house. Jairus wants a miracle. He wants it now, and he wants it his way. Despite the abrupt interruption, Jesus, without hesitation, arose and followed him. Now compare Jairus with the Roman centurion, who in a previous chapter also asked Jesus for a miracle by saying, "Lord, I am not worthy that thou shouldst come under my roof, but speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed." Surprised by the centurion's statement, Jesus comments to his followers, "Verily I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel." Perhaps Jairus is the type of Israelite who Jesus was referring to, a man without faith enough to see God standing right before him. Yet we need to give Jairus credit for seeking Jesus' help and thereby risking his reputation. And maybe Jesus responded so quickly because he understood how difficult it was for Jairus to make this leap of faith. Next is the unnamed woman, who comes to Jesus from behind him without demands, just hope and faith. What do we know about her? She's afflicted with a type of disorder that brands her as unclean and should be shunned. She has been ill for as long as Jairus' daughter, 12 years. No one has been able to cure her. Therefore, many would believe she was not just physically sick, but spiritually diseased too. She comes risking rebuke from the crowd surrounding Jesus. This should remind us of those 10 lepers who courageously came near the village to plead for Jesus' mercy. Matthew's condensed story declares that she said within herself, "If I may but touch his garment, I shall be whole." She is demanding nothing of Jesus. You can almost feel in those words her reluctance to disturb him. Unlike Jairus, she has a humble faith that Jesus is more than a prophet, more than a healer. When he feels her contact, Jesus turns and does nothing more except to say tenderly, "Daughter, be of good comfort. Thy faith hath made thee whole." 3 leaps of faith. Anne Sexton sets off rowing intensely toward what she calls the dot of the island called God, rowing with blisters that broke and healed and broke and healed. Jairus, who initiated his leap with an in-the-face, desperate demand that Jesus act now. Finally, the unnamed woman who started with a quiet, hopeful touch from behind. We have all approached Jesus in these 3 different ways. Personally, I spent most of my life, and I think I still do, like Jairus, making demands on God and feeling a bit ashamed afterwards. It wasn't until I came here to St. Matthew's that I really encountered the hem of his garment. It was here at the railing and in this church family that I found the hem that I could quietly reach for, touch, and be of good comfort. May you too make a leap of faith here and find the hem of his garment in this church.